The year-long quest to get to Salt Lake City has finally come to an end. I'm giving my thoughts and reactions to the last episode of the first season of The Last of Us right after the jump. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime you have something, you will be among the first to know. It's going to be a bit of a tricky episode for me because I do know where everything is leading because I've played both games. But let's talk about this last episode of The Last of Us, the season finale, episode 9, called Look for the Light. Um, we get a precursor. We get to see the OG Ellie, the OG actress Ellie, play Ellie's mom, Anna. And she is on the run, being hunted by an infected. She ends up at this farmhouse, which I'm not sure, I'm not saying it's the same, but remember farmhouse. I'm not saying it's the same one, but for my gamers who played on beyond the first game, just put a pin in that farmhouse. But Anna ends up at a farmhouse and she's trying to outrun this infected. She's pregnant and she makes her way upstairs, barricades the door, but the infected come in. She is giving birth at the same time that the infected is attacking her, and in doing so, she manages to cut the umbilical cord somehow, while also then turning around and being able to stab this infected and save her life. So she has given birth, but unfortunately, she is in a bad way. She has been bitten. We then see Marlene and some of the Fireflies arrive at the same farmhouse to find Anna bitten and the baby there. And Anna's saying, swearing up and down, like, I cut the umbilical cord before before I was bitten. But it's clear that that wasn't the case, as we learn later on. She's like, no, the baby's fine, baby's not infected, but I didn't feed it, so it's probably hungry because I don't know what this has done to my body yet, so I did not feed it. But I need you to take this baby, raise it, take it to the Boston QZ with you, raise it, and make sure that somebody raises her correctly. Her name is Ellie. And then when you take her, I need you to kill me. And Marlene's like, I'm not killing you. I can't do that. I can't do this. She reluctantly does finally take the kid, and then she does subsequently end up taking Anna's life. And has gifted Ellie that knife. So that knife that she's always having, that's a part of her story and a part of the beginning of this connection that Marlene sort of has with Ellie. And Marlene does kind of raise Ellie as her quasi kid. And that's sort of the piece of the puzzle that we were kind of missing from the whole Marlene and Ellie storyline. We then pick back up with Joel and Ellie. Joel seems to be on the mend. They are pretty close to Salt Lake City. They're like right outside of it, and they're making the final path to the hospital in this area. Ellie's brain seems to be a little preoccupied. She's thinking about the past, she's thinking about what she's done, she's thinking about the road that has gotten her here. And she knows that there's going to have to be probably some sacrifices that sort of take place with this, but she's trying to come to terms with this. Well, Joel is still saying, hey, it's the two of us. We'll get you there. They'll take your blood. We'll be fine. It's going to be easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But the only thing that sort of seems to give her some type of solace, a bit of comfort, is she sees a giraffe. And in that, she goes to pet the giraffe. She's running after it, pets it, just looks at the world that is sort of in front of her. And they kind of have a moment of peace together where they talk about some things. And it's at that point that Joel sort of gives her the options. Like, look, there are risks to everything that we do. There are risks, and everything that we have sort of done this far has had something bad happen on the other side of it. We don't have to continue on to this. We can just go back to Tommy's town and live there peacefully and never think about any of this. Like, we don't have to do this. Ellie says we can't turn back now. Like, everything we've done to this point, everything I've done, she internalizes, like, everything that I've done, we got to keep pushing through. We got to see this through. What I've done, it can't be for nothing. We need to finish what we started. She's of the mindset that, like, some of the things that she's done, the stabbing, stabbing of our preacher in the last episode, but mainly like losing Tess or losing Riley, all those things have culminated to the fact like she needs to have a purpose. Like, we did those things for a reason. Let's see this through and see whatever it ends up being. They continue on a little bit further, and at that point, they start talking about the scar that Joel has. And Joel just fesses up like the scar wasn't done by somebody who was trying to shoot me and miss. I did it. I'm the one who shot myself and missed. It was a couple of days after I lost Sarah. So he's admitting to her that he tried to take his own life, and he was ready to do so. Felt really good about it. Felt like, nope, this is the path that I want to take. But at the last minute, when he was pulling the trigger, he flinched and just grazed his head, and thus didn't do it. And Ellie at that point says, "Well, I guess you seem to be better. Time heals all wounds, I guess." And in a really heartfelt and emotional moment, he looks at her and is like, "Time didn't heal this wound." He's letting her know it's all you. Like, you are the person who's responsible for making me whole again, making me feel life, making me feel like I give a damn again. It's you. And time isn't what did it. And then she says, "Well, I'm glad that didn't work out." And he responds, "Well, me too." So there's a little bit more bonding between the two of them to show that they are of a much bigger connection, and that he is the person who he is. Like, he feels like he's sort of gotten his second chance to be a father with this girl. And while they're not the same, he goes on a little bit later and says, like, "You guys aren't the same. You're on a 1-to-1." But I think it feels like when he took the loss of Sarah and he couldn't do anything about it, now he's in complete control and he can sort of dictate and handle how this all goes with her. As they continue on a little bit further, they get flash grenaded by some fireflies, and Ellie is taken, and Joel is hit in the back of the head, knocked unconscious. When he comes to, he's met with Marlene, and Marlene is there meeting him in the hospital bed. Like, "I don't know how the hell you did it. I barely got all the way here, but I appreciate you getting Ellie here." And she's like, "Well, it's pretty much her." He's like, "No, that girl would have been dead had you had it just been her. You were the person responsible. And I don't like to be in debt to anybody, especially not in debt to you, but I owe you one." At that point, the Joel's like, "Appreciate it. You don't owe me anything. I let me just go see Ellie. Let me go see Ellie." And Marlene's like, "That's not going to be possible." Marlene explains to Joel that the way Ellie's body works, she was probably infected while going through labor, right? While Anna was going through labor. And in that, she's created sort of a cure that has allowed the cordyceps to metastasize in her body, so that when she is infected or does get bitten, it just makes it seem her body makes it seem like it's already been infected. So it kind of just ignores it. And so the doctors just kind of figured that out, and to process that and to get the cure and to take that, they have to have surgery on Ellie. They have to cut her open. They have to take her, what she can give, and multiply that and then create a cure. It is at that point that Joel remembers that, hey, the cordyceps stuff burrows into the brain. And Marlene kind of just acknowledges that, yes, we're going to have to remove Ellie's brain. And Joel sees red. At that point, he's hearing nothing about losing one to save many. That's not something that he's hearing. He is not losing another daughter. He can be in control of this one. This one, he can do something about, where that last time he couldn't. And so all bets are off. What I think is important, and for my gamers, is a slightly different twist. We feel like Marlene is in the game is pretty cold to this. Like, yes, this is the plan. She already always knew where this was going to go with Ellie. But at least in this show, now we've sort of seen the scene where she's had that interaction with Anna, and she's taken Ellie on as sort of her daughter. So she now also is taking a loss in this. She feels bad that she has to do this for Ellie, but knows that it is for the betterment of the world that Ellie has to be sacrificed. It's like, I promised her mom to keep her safe, but I know what this means for us as a community, us as a world, that we have to sort of sacrifice it. So she feels like she's taking a loss too, but Joel feels like, nope, it's a bigger loss for me. I've lost my one daughter. I'm not losing another. Marlene sees that Joel's not letting this go, and is like, all right, well, cool. Tells her men, hey, Joel, take Joel to like the highway, leave him with his knife, Ellie's life, and make sure that he doesn't return. And if he starts to do anything, shoot him. Joel gets about halfway down that steps and kind of steps away, and then goes Rambo on this entire place. I mean, he just starts wrecking shop. The body count goes way up in this one. But I think it's important, and I think this is why they don't do so many kills with Joel, and one, to not make him a superhuman, and not make him like this big bad, like I kill everything thing. But to when he does get in the mode to like just kill, 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 he's doing it for a purpose. But what's crazy about this, and this is where this kind of he makes this episode feel just so dirty, and why we always have this. There are no heroes in this landscape. Everybody's doing what they feel is best for them, and so there's always this gray area. Joel is just wiping out people who are doing what they think is best for humanity, what they think will help humanity create a cure. They have families, they have lives, they have loved ones that they're all doing what they think is the best for the world. And Joel is just going in, guns blazing, not asking a question in the world, just shooting to kill. For my gamers, you know what I'm alluding to, but you also, my gamers, you may see a couple of people in shadows from here and there that will mean something more in the future. But Joel is just having a field day and taking no prisoners in this. And so he then gets to the floor with the pediatrics floor where he believes that Ellie is being held and surgery is taking place. And then he steps in the door and he sees Ellie on the table and they're about to start. They have not begun the surgery. They're about to start. Doctor's about to prepping her, about to get going. And Joel comes in the door and says, hey, unhook her. And he pulls up the scalpel. The doctor pulls up the scalpel and is like, I'm not going to let you take it. And Joel, without hesitation, shoots him in the head. Just outright shoots him. My gamers know in the game, you have a choice to whether or not you get Ellie out of there. You have a choice whether or not to do it. And you may not do it as quickly as was done here. But Joel, in this iteration, this version, is a man bent on getting his daughter out of there. And he just shoots him in the head and then tells the nurses to unhook. It's important to note that Joel, outside of one, which we'll get to in a bit, does not harm or shoot any of the nurses or women that are present. He's just going after all the men and military firefly folks. And so Joel gets Ellie unhooked and he takes her into the elevator and goes down to the parking garage where Marlene meets him. And Marlene says, hey, there's still time to change your mind on this. There's still time to take her back up because I don't want you to leave here and think of the broken world that you could have saved. Like you could have done something for this. You're trying to save this girl because this connection you have with her, like your daughter, but you're harming us as a humanity. And Joel's like, well, that's not a decision you get to make. And she's like, well, it's not for you either. Like if she was awake, she's not. She's still in a comatose situation. But do you think this is a decision that Ellie will want? Do you think she's perfectly fine sacrificing herself for the betterment of the world? Or do you think she's going to feel a type of way that you made this decision for her and now she has this big guilt or this weight of the world that she didn't do her part to save humanity or save the world because you wanted her to live? And Joel wants to hear none of that. And he shoots her. Now, we don't see this originally. We see a sort of intercut sequence where the next thing we see is Joel and Ellie are driving back from Salt Lake. And Ellie starts coming to, and she's like, what's going on? And Joel's like, yeah, some wild things occur at the Fireflies. Apparently, there are way more people like you that exist, way more people that have the cure within them, more people who can't be infected. And so they're going to find other people to get the cure stuff from. And he's lying heavily to her to make himself feel better, but also to not make her feel any type of guilt about not going through with giving up her life for the betterment of the world. I feel like for the most part, Ellie kind of knew that this was a possibility that could occur. And she was at peace with that. Joel wasn't. Joel, because he lost his previous daughter, because of everything that sort of has come in this world, because he now has this new found sense of hope and love and rebirth through her and has made him feel whole again. He's like, nah, I'm not losing you. Be damned with what you choose to do. And he lies to her, and she's aware. She's like, well, did you harm people? And he's like, yes. And then she asks about Marlene, to which he does not answer. And you have to remember, because here Marlene and Ellie have a connection, him not answering, that the non-answer is saying that, yeah, he did something terrible to her, which he did. And in the scene, we cut back to where he did shoot Marlene. He puts Ellie in the car, and then he goes back to Marlene and kind of kind of see her struggling. She's like, "You don't have to do this. Let me go. Please let me go." And Joel at that point says, "No, because if I do, you're not going to stop coming after her." And he shoots her in the head. Jesus, Joel. With that, Ellie kind of knows what all Joel has done. She turns her back on him in the car, faces the backseat, and he just says, "I'm sorry." The next thing we see is they have driven a couple of days. They found some clothes for her, and the car breaks down. And as the car breaks down, they start hiking the last couple of miles to get to Tommy's village to find respite and find peace. And you can see how happy Joel is. Joel is happy that he now has his daughter, a daughter. He's like, yeah, there's no real similarities between the two of you. She had a great smile, she did this, but my daughter would have loved you, and I think you would have loved her too. He's basically trying to he is finding ways to make peace with the decision that he has made, for everyone, for the humanity, for Ellie, for everybody. But he feels good about it. So at which point, they're about to get to town, they see it. Ellie stops him and says, "Hey, look, you asked me back in Kansas City when was the first time that I killed somebody, about the first person I killed. And it was somebody I cared for. I wasn't alone when I got bit. I was with somebody. We decided to wait it out. She turned my friend Riley and I killed her. And I took that responsibility." Between that and tests and everything else that we've done, um, I feel like I have a responsibility. Like that was all on me. And Joe's like, "No, that wasn't on you. You had nothing to do with that." But you can see that this was sort of her way of saying, "Look, I get that you may feel a type of way about me being your daughter or your surrogate daughter, but I did a lot of things that if I have a chance to save the future versions of the Rileys and the Tessas, then I wanted to do that. Like I feel like that's something that I should do." But Joel, you told me that there are tons of people out there that have the cure. I'm not the only one. So I'm asking you now, I need you to swear to me that there are no other people out there that have this cure. And Joel bold-faced lies to her and says, "I swear." To which she says, "Okay." And that's how the episode and that's how the season ends. What's really good about this? It's not I know I've seen the word anticlimactic. I don't think this is anticlimactic at all. I think this is anti-hero. I think the show, the games, both games, do a very good job of creating these gray areas where, depending on your viewpoint, the hero, quote unquote, piece moves. Everything that Joel does in this episode makes him a very unlikable guy. Outside of being the father that is trying to protect his daughter, he lies to his daughter. He kills a bunch of people. He ends a bunch of lives that, for the most part, for their viewpoint, they were doing the right things. But the things that have shaped him at the beginning of the season, with losing Sarah and how that all took effect on him, turns out in this episode, when he has a chance to do it, he is not letting anything stop them from taking his new daughter away from him. And be damned of the world, the how much world on fire he set in ablaze. He doesn't care. I'm keeping Ellie alive because that is what I want. She's made me whole. She's made me a person again, and I have a sense of care for her. And while she may grow to hate me when she finds out the truth, I've done what I could as a father to protect her, and that's all that matters. Who knows? I don't. I know because I played the game. But who knows what the world sort of reacts to if they find out that she has a cure, and only one who has a cure, and the one time that could have been helped gets stopped. It creates this gray area, but this beautiful story of a father who made a decision, a choice, and hopefully that choice doesn't come to bite him in the ass. A beautiful episode, a beautiful season, but it leaves you with this pit of your stomach because you're sitting here like, did he make the right decision? Maybe the best decision was to lose another daughter, but I don't know if Joel could have gone through life doing that again. Powerful. It's why these games, it's why the Last of Us games, why this Last of Us series is so impactful. I'm going to say this to the folks who have not played the Last of Us 2 game. Do your due diligence to stay off. Don't search. Last of Us 2. Don't try to look up what happens next. Just let this ride, let them film it, and let that wash over you. It is going to be best to just take it in blind. Don't try to look ahead and see what's going to happen next. I think it'll do you a disservice, but just allow this series to happen to you. And I think it'll be a much better story for you from top to bottom. I love this season. I love the show. I love this episode. And I look forward to whenever we get season two. I think Bella Ramsey and Pedro, but Bella Ramsey is very capable, from especially what we saw from the last episode. She is very capable of bringing some of the heartfelt and hard hitting stories of chapter two to life. What did you guys think of the season finale of The Last of Us? I know a lot of people I've heard have had issues with the fact that there's not as many infected as around as in the game. A lot of it, again, I've said it a couple of times, because those action beats, if you keep doing them over and over again, one, they become repetitive, but two, you start making Joel superhuman, which I think you want to take that element out and live into the heartfelt humanity of this all. And thus, when you get to the stuff that happens in this hospital, it makes the violence hit that much harder, especially when he's doing it to humans, that you're kind of like, oh, Joel. You just, every time he kills someone or every time he does something, that you're like, my heart breaks, because I get where you're coming from. I understand your viewpoint of it being kind of selfish. That's why the lack of infected throughout don't bother me, but I can see how that does bother some people. What did you guys think about this final episode of the first season of The Last of Us? Go leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any other place podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.